Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Monday night, 8 p.m. The Online Darts Live Lounge returns. Myself, Phil Bars, Dan Simpson, and the other one has got lost in transit somewhere. No doubt he will pop up shortly, Dan. But for the meantime, it's just you and I.
Hey, team. Yeah, you well, mate? You good?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. All good, mate. How's things up in the northeast? Did you have a nice weekend away with Mrs. S for?
We had a really, really good weekend. You know, it was properly good fun. Went to Manchester, but a top-notch suite like that. The hotel went really well. We went for teppanyaki. We played shuffleboard. I got to watch more darts than I thought I would over the weekend. I thought I'd see absolutely nothing over the weekend, and whilst I didn't watch a great deal, I did get to see far more than I thought originally that I would. I'm having a nightmare with my camera. I don't know what's going on with that. We're on the wrong camera, so I apologise for both the angle and the quality. I might figure it out as we go. There's a decent chance I don't figure it out, to be honest.
Yeah. Look, so much to talk about, but before we do that, let's jump into the chat room. Dell is in. How are we doing? Joel is in. Wim, James, Andrew, good evening, mate. Hope you are good. Owen is in. Kieran, Chris, of course. Acknowledge the OG bloodline back together. How are we doing, Daniel? Carl from Darts Tracker is in. Hope you are good, buddy. Shelty is in. Sam, Mark. Oh, it's rammed. Bill, Scott, David, Adam, how are we doing?
Happening in darts, does it?
Yeah. Daniel, how we doing? Salesman is in. Daniela is in. Tom, how we doing? Malachi, of course, Anthony is in. Hope you are good, brother. Some good news for darts across the pond, which we'll come on to.
Definitely.
Rob is in. Owen, how we doing? Anthony says, Dan, if Skype's open, it overrules your webcam.
Skype's open.
If you've got anything else open, it might be overruling.
I bet I must have something open, you know, because I rebooted it and a load of crap decided it wanted to. Right, this is what could be going on.
Elaine, how are we doing? Hope you are good. Dan, look, there's a never a dull moment in darts, and look, yet again, it just goes to another level what we've seen over the last 7 days, and it's just, I don't know where we're going to stop.
No, it's mad, isn't it? It's completely mad. As we were stacking up, and it's quite fun, is we keep thinking, well, oh, that'll give us something to talk to. That'll give us something to talk about. Oh, that'll give us something to talk about as well. Oh, there's 5 more things that we can. It's a right. But it's non-stop at the minute, isn't it? And it doesn't look like slowing down, you know.
No, look,
you look in the calendar. If anything else, it's probably going to get worse.
Oh no, look, the train is at full speed. You either jump on or you get left behind.
Correct. That's exactly right.
Look, there's no hiding place. You're on board this steam train now, or you get left behind. How are we doing? I'm guessing it's the Alpha Weekly Darts Cast. Hope you are good. Jack, we are waiting for Gob to arrive. He's having some technical difficulties.
Everyone's having technical difficulties. Like I'm still clicking around all over the place. It's not. We are not having an easy evening in terms of how things work. I'll tell you I'll tell you what a bad start things have got off to in here. I've even forgot to bring a bottle opener in here with me as well.
Oh, disaster.
I'm going to bank my way into these.
But yeah, look, there's so much to talk about, but let's jump into it. Let's go straight into that European Championships. And spoiler alert, for those that have been living under a rock, we have got another and a new major winner, and that is Madhouse, Richie Edhouse. And Dan Dawson put it on Twitter. I never thought I'd see 5,000 drunk Germans living in a madhouse world singing Edhouse back to him in Dortmund.
It's really wild, isn't it? Now, and what what I desperately don't want to in talking about how wild it is and what, you know, nobody expected that. But Richie Edhouse has been playing brilliant darts, particularly in Euro Tour qualifier events. We talked about it for weeks, in that he's almost made himself a specialist of qualifying for European Tour events. And this is for why. Like, this is the fruit of all of his labour. And whilst nobody can argue it's not a shock or a surprise, but I don't want to detract away from just how impressive that was. That, you know, that, and he, you know, he had to throw the darts to win those matches. He didn't come up against many players that had a stinker. He wasn't handed a gimme. He had to really play for it, and we saw some hugely impressive darts from him right throughout the whole tournament. It really was impressive.
Oh yeah, 100%. We'll come back to that in a second. But first of all, new member Aaron, mate, thank you very much for joining the OD team, mate. Thank you very much. Welcome to the OD club. Yeah, Rob says need to the butler to bring you on. Kerry says evening, Phil. My partner Andrew loves your channel. Predicted Edhouse to win a major. Also, pretty much what I'm to have a run within 18 months. Good stuff, Kerry. Glad you and your partner enjoy our channel. Massively appreciate it. Look, Malachi, first of all, thanks for the super like. And we'll come on to that discussion at some point today, no doubt whatsoever. But before we do that, yeah, going back to Richie Edhouse, look, he's not done things lightly here. Let's be frank about that. When you look at his run, he's beaten Jan van Veen with 109 average. He's then beaten Michael Smith in a last leg decider. Beating Gary Anderson, it finished 103, but at one point he was averaging 110. He's then beaten Luke Woodhouse and Jermaine Watamina. That is some run to win a title, especially early on.
Well, that's it. It was an absolute monster performance, and if it was somebody else other than Richie Edhouse that had done that, you know, if it was somebody whose name was Luke, either of them, we'd be saying what an absolutely dominant performance that was. How impressive! Like, certainly that opening game against Jan van Veen came out, set a massive precedent. That huge, like, proper digging. He looks like that second round game against Michael Smith, that 10-9 win. Like, he looks like a player who was used to winning major events on the telly, because that's where we see those sort of results coming out. That's what we see from the elite. That's what we see from the best players in the world, is when they're up against it and they really have to win that final deciding leg, they find a way to be able to do it. And that is exactly what he did. It was so impressive.
Yeah, look, 100%. We'll touch on the Grand Slam after we've done this, because it kind of links in really well. But yeah, look, elsewhere, before we go, look, Jermaine Watamina again has had an incredible weekend. And again, he's been threatening this on the Pro Tour as well. We've seen some big averages from him. But the 1-2-4 to beat James Wade in a deciding leg was just magical.
It was the highlight reel moment. But again, we saw so much from him, and he's a player that we've seen. Now, let's be honest, we have seen good things from him previously, but what we haven't seen is we haven't seen those good things in such a compacted period of time, relentlessly one after the other. And that's what we saw, I suppose, from both finalists, was them being able to find their very best game, but not just being able to find it for 6 legs or for half an hour or an hour at a Pro Tour. They found it consistently, game after game after game. What will be very interesting is to see if either of those players can maintain this level beyond that event, and if they can pick that up. And we've got, it's busy season now. We've got lots of other competitions coming up. Let's see who can maintain it. Because if either of them can, like, it's another, like, we've talked loads about the depth of talent that's in that top 16, top 32. And again, we've seen at the weekend that, somebody, there are players in there that can come from absolutely nowhere. And again, not make a final or win an event because the players they're playing against have a stinker and play crap. No, they can turn up and edge out former world champions by in a deciding leg, and then they can beat multiple time world champions and dominate them with 104 average, and they can come out and set the tournament alight with 110 average. And like we just saw some very, very special things.
I think has he landed? Can you hear us, mate?
Just about.
Better late than never. Cobb's arrived.
Been sat here since 5:02.
Oh, bless. You all right there, mate?
I'm very well. How are you?
Yeah, he's frozen, not moving. We'll see how long Cobb lasts because he's not moving at the moment. But also with Jermaine, I want to talk about the demolition job on Luke Humphreys, because not many people do that. Yeah, look, Luke was having his own battles up there, but Jermaine did an absolute number on him.
He did, because it was when you a 10-4 against, and it's an interesting scoreline because there wasn't a huge gap in the stats. But 10-4 is massive but what Jermaine did was he won all the most important parts of that game. Every time an important moment came, Jermaine was winning those really important battles. The games within the game, he was getting the best of him. Luke did seem, and we've seen it happen a few times where he's allowed external factors that are not just the relationship between him and the board influence what's going on and get into his head a little bit. And clearly that was affecting both players. They both discussed it and talked about it, but he certainly, did an incredible job of winning those little battles, those games within a game, and all the important ones he got over the line.
Yeah, look, 100%. Are you with us, Gob, or have you just completely frozen?
I am here. I can hear you. That's just whether or not you can hear me back.
You breaking up? A couple of ones in round one, which we'll discuss as well. We'll go back to obviously the winners in that in a minute. We kind of gone arse about face, but there was a real stinker of a performance from Peter Wright. Just when we thought he turned the corner, he throws in an absolute shocker, only averaging 74.
Yeah, it was a strange one because that was outside of the final. That was about as bad as what have played in the whole tournament. And you wonder what would have happened and what would have been different if Peter Wright could have turned up for that first game. But yeah, every time, and I know some people have got excited when we've seen him chuck good averages, and we've seen different things coming from him in terms of his form. So the form in the first part of the year when we had the Premier League, that it was nowhere, and we've seen glimpses. But I think I've been relatively consistent in saying that it hasn't been anywhere near enough for me. And what we've seen coming back from him, even when there have been glimpses, wasn't enough to convince me that he was going to re-establish himself as a consistent top 16 player. I think he's some way away from that. And I don't really know what's next for him. He finds himself at the minute ranked number 15 in the world, but that that's on a trajectory the wrong way for him at the minute, and he's gonna continue slipping and sliding down unless he starts to win something. Now, obviously, we know he's got the ability. And we've seen some of the best darts that we've ever seen from human beings from that man. Like, we know that he can do it, but it seems a long way away from him at present. I think people think he's been threatening, and I'm not convinced he ever was. It was just glimpses. If you are that good as he was, you can't sort of always not be at it. You still find it here and there.
Yeah, look, 100%. Another first round exit for Chisnall on a TV event as well. Rips it up on a Pro Tour and a Euro Tour, but again, a bit of a stinker from Chisnall, and Joe Cullen massively off the pace. It's worrying times for a few of the top performers.
Well, it certainly is when we're seeing people outside of the traditional top 16, top 20 doing big things. We've seen what Mike de Deck has done. We know what Richie Edhouse has just done. We've seen people making quarterfinals, and we've seen people making semi-finals. Luke Woodhouse in a semi-final. These players are all starting to show that just because you are in the top 10, top 15, 16, and have been for the last couple of years, there's absolutely no guarantee that you will make quarterfinals at some of these bigger events. They are, in my opinion, more open than ever before, and it's going to happen more because the pressure will come on more and more.
100%. Right, we've got some clips to play, then we've got some talking points off of these clips. So, first of all, let's hear from the winner, and let's give him the respect he deserves. Let's hear from Madhouse.
Majorly. I mean, I've done an interview earlier, and that was before the final, I think, and I said, even that, it will change my life. And obviously, getting the win, a lot more money, it is going to be massive for me and my family.
Looking ahead, do you know, obviously when people have won their first one, they've said they don't want to be known as a one-time wonder. Is that something that you're now looking at, and is it a case of now I've won one, that hunger there is to go and get more? 100%.
I've got the confidence, I've got the hunger. I can't say I've always been, could lose to him, but I ain't got no fears no more.
I like that. Really honest, how this one tournament has changed him and his family's life.
Well, it will, and we have seen, we've seen people win one thing, and that's it. But he has the ability. Like I say, he hasn't won this tournament because he's got lucky with a draw, and the players he's met have played crap. That is definitely not how and why Richie Edhouse has won this tournament. He's won this tournament by playing absolutely brilliant darts consistently over a long period of time. That meant he, who wasn't automatically qualifying for these events, has managed to get him. He's earned, as much as anybody else has, earned himself a place in that tournament. He's then played some absolutely superb darts, beating some of the best players, not just in the world, but ever. Like, he has properly earned it and shown that this does not have to be a one-off for Richie Edhouse. It simply doesn't, because he's too good. He's too good at darts, and he finds that form regularly enough. He is not. He's with that, with his moving up to number 29 in the world, he's going to find himself qualifying for things more and more often. It'll be interesting to see where his ranking is next year, as to whether or not he. If I'm a mile off with this, you feel free to everybody laugh at me, but is there a chance that he doesn't automatically qualify for Euro Tours next year in order to defend his title? And is that not unbelievably silly that the defending champion has to keep going through qualifying events?
Pro Tour Order of Merit. No, he's all right. He's seeded.
Is it? Because he wasn't at the beginning of the season. He's had to keep going through those qualifiers because he relentlessly had to keep going through those qualifiers.
Yeah, but now he's got himself into a seeded position. So as long as his form continues, he'll be in every Euro Tour next year. How are we doing, Matador? Hope you are good. Chat room is rammed as always. We've got a few more clips to play. Right, let's do MVG because then it leads into another one after what he says.
Well, I'm enjoying the darts again, and that I think you need to have that if you want to perform well. And I've been in the game. It's my nearly 18 years, I think. 2007, I crossed over. So in January, 18 years. So, and I'm only 35. So I've been in the PDC for a long time. I played a lot of tournaments so far, but you want to keep performing well. You want to keep moving on, and I think that's what I'm doing. There's still a lot to gain for, still a lot to fight for, and I think this is a really important tournament. I didn't win this one for a few years, so my eyes and hands are only one way. I need to make sure I'm going to win this.
You said about enjoying it again. Has Luke and Luke really inspired you again to enjoy it? Because I remember when you were coming through.
Yes and no. You need to inspire yourself, because if you don't have the willing to win, you can have all the talent in the world, but you're not going to make it. Do you know what I mean? You need to do it yourself. I'm going to fight for everything. I'm feeling good, and I think there's still a lot more in the tank, and for the next 7-8 years. So we're going to see what's going on. Yeah, of course, it's always going to be a blockbuster. Wherever you have a good or bad game, it's always going to be a tense game. We don't want to lose to each other. We know each other really well. But I'm feeling comfortable. I'm feeling good, and I know I can hurt him on the right moments. You know, we all know Gerwyn Anderson. Yeah, he's one of the best players I ever saw in my life, but he's also a part-timer, do you know what I mean? So I need to make sure I'm going to do the right thing and bet on my own game.
There was a couple of bits in there. First of all, the fact that he says he's enjoying it again is interesting.
I mean, and he also seemed like he wasn't just saying it. Like we've had it, and you know, you probably the expert. There's a few times where we've called out some of those interviews where we thought I thought he was saying words, but didn't look like he meant them too much. But knows what to say. It felt like he meant it, didn't it? Like, or certainly the way he came across, it looked like he was genuinely enjoying it.
100%. But interesting. Look, he's called Gary one of the best he's ever seen. Look, we don't doubt that, but it was good and bad from Gary this weekend. Look, he ran into a great performance from Edhouse, but his post-match, he's poured cold water on something I think we'd all like.
Never like the build-up, you know, because everyone thinks it's going to be a cracking game, and it usually turns up a load of cowpat, you know, which I think it was tonight. But no, it's like I say, Michael's he's done everything in darts, isn't he? You know, I remember watching him. I remember playing him when he was about 13, 14. You know, then he signed with the PDC, and I don't think he won a game for about 5 years. And then all of a sudden he just took off. You know, and he's been absolutely merciful for about a decade. So it's still a privilege to play him. I'd like to get to number one and then retire on the spot. That would cause a lot of grief. You know, but listen, I'm enjoying what I'm doing just now. You know, and I've spoken with my manager that Premier League, I've done it for so many years, fantastic. Couldn't do it now, 16 weeks away from home, and then you've got Europeans, Pro Tours, you know, I just couldn't do it. You know, I mean, hats off to the youngsters that are doing it, because they've got some travelling to do in the next couple of years.
We'd all love to see Gary when Gary's playing well, darts is a better place. But he's not having any of this Premier League return, is he?
Well, this is the thing, is like, yes, 100%. When Gary's playing well, darts is like there are few things in darts better to watch than Gary Anderson playing his best. But I'm not so sure how much call there is for Gary to be in the Premier League that isn't nostalgia, because we are seeing good darts from him. We are seeing it, but it just doesn't seem to be translating into either reigniting a passion within him to come back and do things, or a level that will push him through challenging, tough games to get to a point where he starts to pick up trophies again. You know, we are seeing great darts from him. We're seeing great averages, and we're seeing, you know, really, really solid performances, and we're seeing it quite regularly. You know, we see the form guides that come out that various different people pull together. But for the last couple of years, if you look at the record on TV since that, and I'm gonna let's not include the World Cup and pretend it doesn't count. But after that, well, in fact, if you take away Ali Pali, there's very little. You know, we had the final and the semi-final, but when you look right through and you look, you know, UK Open, Match Play, Grand Prix, Players' Championships, he's done very, very little the last 3 or 4 years beyond the second round. And I just think that what's missing is just a real grit and desperation to win. And what often happens is he bumps into people who are able to play a similar level of darts to him on that day, but they just seem to want it more. They can motivate themselves more than he can, I think. I might be completely wrong.
Look, I liked his not bad for a part-timer. The banter MVG and Gary have is right up there. And
more of that, please. Yeah, more of like, and this is like, and that's, and it's, let's be honest, it's only where I speak from a point of frustration as a Gary Anderson fan. Like that, I want to see him winning more things again. Like that's, you know, and that's what it is. And because he does offer so much to the rest of the, you know, the big patchwork quilt that you want to make up everything you want from a top player, because he gives you that banter and he's good value for an interview, and he does the box office performances and the crowd love him, and he's good on a Premier League night and all the other things you want. But what's missing at the minute is the thing. There's something that there has to be a reason why a player who is as good as he is, who can play darts as well as he can regularly, you know, who is coming out regularly, topping the form guides of highest averages and highest checkouts. But for the last 4 years, you know, his Grand Prix record, first round, second round. Match play record, second round, first round, second round, first round. These are the big highlight premier events of the year. And he's one of the best players in the world, but it just doesn't seem to be translated for whatever reason.
Right, I'm going to play the clip from Ryan Searle, and then there's a lot of chat in the chat room about the P word. So we'll play this because Ryan brings it up, and then we'll discuss.
It kind of changes sort of as the months go on. I feel like at the start of the season, after the Wales, especially if I've not performed at the Wales, that, you know, I put a lot of effort in, and, you know, I started the year really well, and then I sort of tail off. I don't know. I don't really have that drive to be in the Premier League and pick up major titles and stuff like that. I don't really like the limelight, to be honest. I just sort of like going along in the background and just sort of nicking a penny here and there. And, you know, luckily enough in the PDC, you don't have to be, you know, winning major titles and everything like that to earn yourself a decent living, and I'm sort of going along by that. Obviously, it'd be nice to win a major at some point. My friend just texted me then, and he said, "Oh, you're back to number 16 in the world. And I was thinking, oh, that's good because I play Luke Humphries in the last 6 of every event. So, being in the top 16 is great. But if you're number 16, you're playing Luke Humphries, and he's a different animal when it comes to majors. That's probably a disadvantage, to be fair. So I wouldn't mind dropping away from 16,
or go higher.
Or higher, obviously, yeah. I was 12 or 13 at my highest. I feel like when I play my game, I feel like I'm a top 10 player. And I really believe that.
Well, you said exactly what I was thinking, so thank you for. At least we're on the same wavelength, because I was just thinking, surely the answer is to get to 14, 15, 13. Like surely that's the answer, not to try and drop away.
But he doesn't want the and it was asked in the chat room, do I think De Decker or Edhouse will be in the Premier League? I don't think Edhouse will. I think it's just, and I know it's early because it's comically early, and I apologise if my camera goes silly while I do this. But yeah, and it is comically early, but it's so far away, it's so far off that there's just an awful lot can happen, and an awful lot. Like either of them two could go and do something daft in another tournament, couldn't they? Like the pair of them could go and win something. I think the way things stand today, both of them have got to do something else. Like if they don't go past a quarter final on a TV event between now and Premier League selection, then I don't think either of them are in. De Decker, I think, would be closer to being in if Dimitri van den Berg hadn't have won the UK Open. Because I can't see a scenario whereby we take 2 Belgians around the Premier League circuit if we've only got 8 players. So if Dimitri van den Berg hadn't won the UK Open and didn't do a dance, then I would have thought that was the spot that you could have shoved De Decker into. But I think the fact that Dimitri's carrying another televised title as a Belgian, I think that makes it really interesting for them two. But I think if either of them makes a semi-final between now and February, then yes, Noppert did win the UK Open. They didn't pick him, but he doesn't do a little dance, and that is a deciding factor. It's interesting, Aileen, and I get your thing that who do they pick to keep the appeal? The problem is they don't need to keep the appeal because the tickets are already sold. The tickets went on sale 10 days ago, and most of the venues have either sold out or very limited availability. Correct. So in theory, they could put me and Dan there, and they've already sold the tickets.
It'd be cheaper for them.
So, people are going to turn up. They paid for their tickets. Is the thing. So, but you look at it from at the moment. Humphries, Van Gerwen, Cross, and Chisnell is in, and he has a buffer as well. Is the thing. Let's be fair. Would you want to pick Dave Chisnell for the Premier League on his current TV form? No. But he is going to be an instant pick.
But is the Premier... Now, and I don't know whether the Premier League might be exactly what Dave Chisnell needs us to get in the habit of winning things on TV. Like, there are some people, and we've seen it. The Premier League can break players. You can put a player in who's not on form, and if they don't get it in the Premier League, it can do them harm. I'm not sure whether that happens to Chisnell. I don't know whether you fling him in and he just becomes more used to winning or playing well on. Like, I don't think we could argue that it did Chris Dobey harm. You know, Chris Dobey didn't qualify for fight. You know, he lost a lot of games, playing very, very well, very well. But I think most people would agree that the Premier League was a good thing for Chris Dobey.
I agree.
I think it could have a similar positive effect on Chisnall.
Right. So before Tony, there's absolutely no chance whatsoever of Littler not being in. So we look at it, right? As it stands right now, top 4 are in. Littler will be in. That's 5. There's 3 left. Now, this is going to sound... Oh, I appreciate there is still 3 majors to go. However, I'm looking at it at the moment. There's a scenario here where the world number 5, 6, and 7 all may not be in.
I think that's personally, I'd say that was likely. I'd say I would say that you're more likely to get number 8. We know number 10's in, but 8 and 9. So you've got Bunting and Aspinall. Depending on what happens with Aspinall's game since his recovery from surgery, but I would say you're more likely to see Bunting than you are Clayton, Price. Probably more likely to see Bunting than Heta.
Look, Michael Smith's in a world of trouble. Peter Wright is in a world of trouble. So you've got Dimitri, who's in the equation, but he's 17 in the world. This is going to be a big decision.
Yeah, not the problem with Dimitri is, but if he hadn't have won the UK Open, he's not even in the conversation, is he? Like he doesn't make at the moment.
100%.
If he doesn't have that one decent weekend in Minehead, then he's not even close to the shortlist. And you would have the likes of you would make the case that De Decker is in with more of a shout. Dobey in with more of a shout. James Wade in with more of a shout. Whether it's a likely pick, but justifiably, you'd say he was more justified as a pick. But that 1 or that 3 days in my head that Dimitri found some form. He's doing a lot of heavy lifting, but I fear for him that by the time we come around to February, that UK Open's 11 months gone. And, we've seen UK Open winners. That is one event that's almost become synonymous for the winners not being selected. We've seen that become quite a regular thing now. Winning the UK Open does not get you into the Premier League. And I think it's the only thing that might get Dimitri in at the minute.
Aileen, we're looking at the end of World Championship race where he drops to 17 currently, because that's a reflection on where they're going to be at the end of the World Championship. Obviously, there's still money to go on, but that takes all the money off their defending. Moving on from there, this came up at the weekend. Or no, first of all, let's do Gerwyn Price. Now, he said he's not going to the Slam qualifier. He's having a month off. How true it is, I don't know. But I got a text from someone today, who works in the industry, that they believe he is still in the Slam qualifier.
When you said works in the industry, I wasn't sure if you meant darts or fish and chips then. Darts.
So they believe he is still entered in the qualifier.
Well, I suppose he does. I don't know. There'll be a rule somewhere that someone in the chat room will know more than me, and that someone will know what the rule is as to when you have to, without incurring a bollocking, declare yourself not attending. Although for the qualifiers, like that he can just not turn up, can't he, for a qualifier? Someone just gets a foul.
No, if you're in the draw and you forfeit, you get fined. So he'd have to.
I don't think he'd give a toss, does he?
No, but
I think that's the problem. This is the problem: is that I don't think that's something he's worried about.
Eileen, do you genuinely think Dimitri can get to a world final? Because I don't. not the way he's playing.
No, that's the strange thing is he was Bobbins before Minehead.
He's had one good tournament and he won it. The rest he's been absolutely.
He didn't play particularly well. He had a reasonable draw and had one good afternoon. He's had a decent 4 hours in 12 and a half months.
But going back to Gezi, where does he go from here? Because look, quite clearly he's struggling mentally right now. You can see that same intensity isn't there. That when he was at his best, the fire was in the belly, and we saw it on stage, and it just seems as if he's going through the motions right now. That I don't know how he reignites that. What he can do.
Yeah, I think it's a really, really tough one, that, Phil, because the fall has been so dramatic. You know, there was a period of time from 2018 where he lifted trophies every year, but not only was he lifting trophies every year, is as well as winning trophies, he was making semi-finals and finals of most tournaments. So when he wasn't winning something, he was going deep. He was highly competitive in everything. And when he wasn't at it, he was getting the job done with his B game, and he wanted to win. And the drop-off has been so rapid, for want of a better word, it's been a real rapid decrease. You know, last year, Premier League finalist, World Grand Prix finalist, quarters at Ali Pali, quarters in the European Championships, and this year, so far, and granted we've only had 6 or 7 televised events so far, if you include the Premier League, we haven't seen so much as a quarter-final from him. We haven't seen a quarter-final from Gerwyn Price this year at all. And we're used to seeing virtually everything. You know, 2021, Gerwyn Price made at least a quarter-final in every single televised event, other than the Players' Championship finals where he went out in the 3rd round. But every other event, he's either winning it, or he's in the final, or he's in the second. Like he did it at such a consistent level, and that's why it seems so far away now, because he's not making it even on occasions. It's consistently nowhere near the level that he set for himself. Like, there are players on this tour that would kill to be consistently qualifying for these events even. But that's not what Gerwyn Price, I think, is happy with. And I don't think he will be content to be a middling, average, top 32 player. I don't think he will. And I think that's why he's looking frustrated and not engaged properly. I think that he can't find what he needs to establish himself back up with the world's elite. And I don't think he can tolerate from himself being an average player.
No, I agree. Bob, you can see there, Gob's answered it. He's trying to get in. He's in. I can see him in the background, but he's just can't get connected properly. But yeah, I agree, Matt.
He's throwing things around and stamping his fists.
I suppose the worry is, though, Matt, I agree that if he scales it back, that what happens if he realises he doesn't miss it? what happens then?
Yeah,
Because
that is
that's my worry, that he realises he doesn't miss it, and we don't see the very best of Gerwyn Price, and it's one of the shortest careers of what could have been one of the all-time greats.
Yeah, well, it is, because I think it's easy to forget that, and yes, he had that year. Was it 2017 when that run to the UK Open final? And again, the UK Open is an anomaly, isn't it? We've seen all sorts of strange things happen there. But 2018, bang, just announced himself there, won the Grand Slam, and then it was from that point that he's gonna run through every event on TV. He might not win it or make a final, but he's getting at least quarterfinals, everything all the time. But that was only 2018. That's only 6 years that we've seen. So we have seen, like I said, very, very consistent high-level performances. But it has been over a window. And if this is close to being it, then I don't know whether or not we end up in a conversation, 10 years' time about how much of a wasted talent he may have been, because he could still be, one of the greats of the game. He has the natural ability and that winning mentality when he's at it to spend, 15 years in the top 10, consistently turning up every year, winning trophies for a long period of time and establishing himself as a proper legend of darts. But I'm not sure we'll see that. Or I think he might be.
No, and Matt, I do agree that the 6 years at the top is very good, but I think that because he could be so good, that feels like a disappointment.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. If he was crap, or if we felt he was overachieving, and if and he's sort of run out of steam on a good run, but I don't think he is. I think he's an amazing player, absolutely amazing player that could do some very, he could break records with the amount of times he could win certain things, and we know he can break records for averages and things. Too good to not.
Yeah. Well, that brings us on to the next one. And Tony, I know that you said you're new to darts. Let's go from there to the Slam qualifier, because this is a mess for me. And I stuck it out on social media at the weekend, that some of the players that are not in the Slam qualifier, they're not in the Slam at the moment, is remarkable. That currently the world number 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, 13, 14, 16, 17 all aren't there. Now, look, I get that goes down a little bit far, but first point, if you're in the top 10 in the world, have you earned the right to be in every TV tournament?
Not the Grand Slam. Not for me.
See, I disagree. I think if you're in the top 10 in the world, you've earned that right to be in everything.
See, with everything else, that's normally my opinion, my very strong opinion on every other tournament. And I also say it about them when they can't be asked to play it as well, when they don't want to turn up. And you think, well, you've earned the right to do so. Adrian Lewis has earned the right to carry his card around and fucking not turn up if he doesn't want it, because he earned that card. The exception to the rule, the exception that proves the rule, I would probably go as far as to say, is the Grand Slam. Because the Grand Slam qualifier, the thing that makes good darts tournaments and that makes us look forward to different darts tournaments throughout the year, and I'm fucking sick of hearing people talk about they don't like the Premier League because they're just watching the same players play the same format all the time. Like what people should be thinking is that these different darts tournaments they offer different things. Some of them are double in, some of them are set play, some of them you qualify in this way, some of them you qualify in that way. Some you qualify through playing Pro Tours, some you qualify by playing European Tours. The qualifications for all these tournaments are set out at the beginning. No one's taken by surprise by this. Like nobody's been taken by surprise. The qualification process was there at the beginning. This is about winning things, and it rewards people who've won things or got to a final in a big event on the telly. And that's the structure of it. And it's rare. I suppose I must mean it when Chris Dobie is one of the victims of this process, and I'm happy to come out against the inclusion of him, because I just think, well, he should have. That's not what this tournament is. I like the idea of making up the numbers through people who've won on the Pro Tour, but winning on the Pro Tour is good for your ranking and it gets you to the Players' Championship finals. It doesn't get you to the Grand Slam. Getting to the Grand Slam is about getting on TV and having a run. For me, in my opinion.
See, I fully agree. Look, the rules are set out as they are, so you can't change them mid-season. But I don't think they're right, personally. Right? If you win a TV event, I've got no issue with that whatsoever. However, I don't think you should be prioritising runners-up over winning something. For me, the runners-up should come in to fill spots. Not... Chris Dobie, come Friday, could win 5 Players' Championship events and not be in. And with the greatest will in the world, you've got Mensur Suljovic and Roby John Rodriguez playing in a World Cup pairs event, getting a place for it, and it just doesn't.
The World Cup will always be rogue, and I said that we were talking about a completely different subject earlier, and I went discount the World Cup. We need to almost stop including the World Cup in any other conversation because it just fucking ruins your pie chart, doesn't it? Whatever point you're trying to make, all your graphs and charts go out the window if you ever factor in the bloody World Cup because it's such a bloody anomaly. And I agree, I agree that the inclusion of Roby John Rodriguez and Mensur Suljovic is strange and frustrating when you haven't got Chris Dobie in there. I find that deeply frustrating. But what I remember is, and I genuinely think that this has to be remembered, there is an excitement and an achievement when players make televised finals that they have qualified for this event. There was a conversation when they got through, when Team Austria got through to the final of the World Cup, there was as much conversation of they've qualified for the Grand Slam as there was they might win the World Cup. They're in the final. So I think that
it was the same the year before. Team Scotland, when they won the semi-final, the exact words for the thing was, "We're in the Grand Slam now." Not we've got the final of the World Cup, we're in the Grand Slam. But
for me, that is more to do with how people perceive the World Cup than anything else. That for me. And it shows how important the Grand Slam is. It's really frustrating. I'm frustrated that I'm a massive Chris Dobie fan, and I would like him to be there. But I do feel that he needed to make a semi-final, or he needed to go and do something on a Euro tour. He needed to do something to get there that isn't just. It's like you've got to do something in front of a crowd. That's the rule. You have to have done something in front of a crowd to get there.
See, I love the Grand Slam. But my issue is, one, I don't think it's been rebranded properly since the demise of the cross-code element.
Correct.
It hasn't been reset properly.
No, you're right.
And two, the issue is when they ranked it. And look, I'm all for ranking events. I am. But listening to, and I'm not going to name these players, by the way, because it's not fair, because they were conversations that I had with them. And most of these are in the Grand Slam as well, by the way. A few of them weren't, but 90% of them are in. And I can kind of see their point where should players, and look, don't get me wrong, I actually like the fact these players are in there, but I can see the tour card holders' point that should players that aren't tour card holders be in an event that's ranked, because essentially, let's say Bo wins the Grand Slam, Bo or Leonard Gates or whoever. Let's say one of those non-ranked, like Scott Waits did. It wasn't ranked then, so it's a bit different. But then you've got a large chunk of ranking money leaving the system for 2 years. Should ranking money be leaving a ranking system? Is what they're saying.
I suppose the short answer is that. Well, the short answer is that it doesn't leave the ranking system, because what's the prize? 150 grand. Because now that it is ranked, like when it wasn't ranked and Scott Waits won it, he just took that money out of the system, and you were correctly, like that money is gone from the system. Surely, if it's ranked and somebody wins £150,000, like that money hasn't left the system. They're ranked about 36th in the world, probably after the after the World Championships. Like it doesn't leave under the current format when it's ranked. Like and now I suppose that changes if, and I take your point, Bo Greaves wins and then chooses to not accept the tour card, not accept the tour card that she's, I assume, earned by nature of the amount of money that she's picked up and earned. But if Leonard Gates wins it, he's got a tour card, can play tour card events, and he's got 150 grand on his ranking. Is my guess. So it probably doesn't leave the system unless they turn the tour card down. But I think then that's a different issue. Like if that's a very different conversation. If someone's won a major event on TV, won 150 grand, and then turns a tour card down, that's a very interesting conversation.
I'm just passing on information.
Yeah, I get it. I just think
and bearing in mind, I say 90% of these players are in the Grand Slam, so it's not as if sour grapes that they're not in. That they're saying that should non-tour card holders be playing in a ranked event? That's another.
Well, they want to think about that every time they don't turn up to a Pro Tour event and a non-tour card player plays in a ranked event in their place.
I get it. I'm just passing on the information.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get the point. Like there is always going to be this thing of I've earned this card, and what does this card get me? And what's the point of me holding this tour card if any other Tom, Dick, or Harry can turn up and do what I've earned the right to do at the same time? And I get that being frustrating. Tour cards are incredibly difficult to get hold of. And to see other randoms turning up with a tour card or without a tour card and being allowed the same access as you, I can imagine being very frustrating. But they are there because they've been playing better darts than everybody else, and therefore your argument falls down a little bit because play better darts. You've got a tour card. They shouldn't be a threat to you.
Yeah, I think the PDC have done a lot of good work recently in closing loopholes and redesigning tournaments, which we'll come on to in a minute. But I think going into next year, the Slam is one that I think needs that. This is the next one that needs the overhaul, because I don't think it's been done properly since the cross-code element has been dropped and it has been ranked. So for me,
it was so unique as well, wasn't it? And so special because of that. And unfortunately, and someone will come for me for this, like, it's not the PDC's fault that the other lot don't exist anymore. Like, and someone might come out and say, yes, it fucking is, but it's not. You know, that tournament not existing in the way it used to is not the fault of the PDC. There isn't an established alternative at the moment that they can turn to and say, well, you know, we want to adopt the previous, you know, the previous style of tournament that was that cross-code element. So I think it's been a real challenge for the PDC because they had this tournament was great and they've had to sort of cobble something together. And until it gets a really serious look and an overhaul and some proper thought into it, then there's always going to be questions, especially when things like this come up where people win multiple Pro Tours and don't get in. But I do think a little bit that they were sort of, it was a bit out of their control, the fact that fell apart, and they've had to just figure out a way of limping it on.
But with only 8 spots, there are going to be some big names missing the Grand Slam. Friday's qualifier, which Dan will be hosting the live stream for us, is going to be very, very interesting. Right, let's get into it because the PDC teased an announcement on Friday.
I'll tell you what, and in doing so, they caused some amount of bloody conversation. Like, people at every level, with every little nook or cranny that are even involved on the periphery, and some that are involved very seriously in the inner workings of darts, were discussing this. It became something that, you know, the casual fan, you know, the casuals that we talk about were passing around the WhatsApp groups into me with a little black and white TV screen on saying, Dan, what does this mean? It actually grew some legs, didn't it? It got people talking.
Correct. The return of the Winmore World Masters in a massive rebrand for the Masters. We knew it was going to be ranked for the first time and was going to 32 players, but now we have the structure. We know how it's going to be done. And first of all, kudos to PDC and Winmore for pulling this off, because we have sat here for a long time on this stream saying this is one of the formats that we'd like to see return to elite level darts. And now we've got it. Set play, best of 3 legs to a set. It is going to be incredible. And the announcement, I thought, was superb. There's a couple of negatives, but we'll come on to them in a minute. But before we go in on this, the one that made me laugh was I was reading through some of the comments on Instagram and X. Spot the fans that have only been fans since the World Championships that had absolutely no clue of the importance of this. They're like, is this big then? What's all this about? It was like,
yeah, what is the Winmore World Masters?
Spot the newbie that had no idea what the Masters was.
Yeah, it's big news, isn't it? Because it was something that was, you know, one of the main events of the year for many people, and it was a bit, you know, for a long time that was it was a big earner as well. You know, it was one of the high ticket events. If you were a player, there were the events that you wanted to go and win because prize money was big. There was television coverage. It was, you know, it was a major event, and bringing it back in the format that they have proposed, I think is superb. It's going to cause, I'll tell you what's going to cause some complications is the fucking Wikipedia pages, because where you start to draw the line, well, there's going to have to be divided up and trying to work out whose is what and what is the natural successor to what and where that heritage lies is going to be an interesting one.
Well, okay, you brought it up. So let's do this first of all. Now, the way it was released on social media was it is the Winmore World Masters returning, and you now have the chance to be a World Master and join some of the greats. And we saw the pictures of Bob Anderson, Phil Taylor, Jockey, Eric, winning the Winmore World Masters. Now, we have 2 World Masters going on now because the WDF World Masters is there and they've also done the same. Wesley Placia is a back-to-back Masters champion, joining the greats of blah, 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 blah.
Which in 2022, don't forget, was sponsored by Winmore and was the Winmore Masters in 2022.
Correct. So, how does... This is the confusing bit. And I think it will confuse fans. And I also think it is an issue for the WDF. Because now, look, the PDC is everywhere. People see the PDC everywhere. Now, everyone will now associate the Winmore World Masters as a PDC event like it is going forward. That's a massive kick for the WDF. It's a kick in the bollocks. Because it effectively kills their second biggest tournament.
Yeah. And not only does it, and it's not just killing it, it's almost ridiculing it. It's just taking it away. The bit that you've tried to, and I understand that the WDF have tried to be in part, and they haven't always got it right. They're trying to be custodians of the sport, and certainly that part of the game where they have tried to make sure some continuity of, the important tournament. We saw it just very recently, and they've took it out to Budapest. It looked like a good tournament. The streaming was good. It was very positive. I think it was one of the more positive things that we've seen from the WDF. One of the most positive things we've seen in recent years. So not only is it a kick in the balls, but it's a kick in the balls of the one element that seemed to be going best for them at the time. We've had discussions about the prize money for the World Championships, and genuinely the thing that seemed to be the best thing for them, or the thing that was going well, was that Masters event. And that's what I'm interested in is there are players who are former champions who might be in this tournament next year. Now, so I was going to use Michael Van Gerwen as the example, but we could make it more fun and use Adam Smith-Neil. But if Adam Smith-Neil, and it's not very often that Adam Smith-Neil and Michael Van Gerwen are interchangeable in terms of their darting achievements. It's very rare that you can use either name. But if either Adam Smith-Neil or Michael Van Gerwen wins this event in February, are they a 2-time Winmore World Master?
Well, judging by the release, and he won't mind me saying this, I spoke to Matt Edgar tonight about it because he's just played in the WDF one and he read the release. He read it the same as me, that it was billed as a continuation of the Winmore World Masters.
But so are we then continuing from, is the current holder, do we think, is it friend of the show, Joker John O'Shea? Is he the current holder, do we think?
No, because I don't think that was sponsored by Winmore. If I remember rightly, that one was sponsored by 180, I think.
Oh, you're right. The defending champions, Adam Smith-Neil.
So this is the issue. Look, don't get me wrong. I love what they've done, and I'm over the moon.
Yeah, 100%. And we can have a laugh about it, but it's mint.
It has muddied the darting waters, shall we say, slightly here.
100%. Again, brilliant announcement. The tournament sounds brilliant. I'm all for it. Great. But it's muddied them enough for me to be able to take the piss and have a laugh about it. And therefore it's muddy. If even I can pull a funny out of it, then it's the waters are muddied. It's not clear.
And I agree, Rob. It is, but again, doing some digging, that Winmore owned all the rights for the Winmore World Masters.
Yeah, so well. I think the last Winmore World Masters was 2018. Adam Smith-Neil beat Glenn Durrant 6-4.
No, I think it was Placia. Last year's WDF one was sponsored by Winmore. So I think it's
But that was a one-off though, 2022, and from do we just accept that we had a few years with that? Because, and this is the interest, is whether that was the Winmore World Masters, and I don't know, someone will be able to tell us, but whether that was a Winmore World Masters or was that a WDF World Masters that they'd got some sponsorship from Winmore for. And I'm not so sure whether those things are this, because that I think that 2022 might be an outlier. That might just be one outlier.
Yeah, and look, Matador's got it here. Matador, you've been doing the same digging as I have. Back in the day, they had to give permission to the BDO to run it, but it was their tournament.
I think that's why I think, and depending on the contractual status of 2022, because after 2019 and then it not running for a few years, like 2022 is an interesting one. But
yeah,
I suppose, I don't know, we could do with. It'd be very interesting to speak to someone. You get to speak to important people all the time, Phil. You could ask them, couldn't you? You could say, is Adam Smith-Neale going to be a 2-time world master?
Oh, don't worry. It is on my list next time we do an interview. Don't worry. It's on the list.
We are going to use Adam Smith-Neale as a reference, though, and not Michael Van Gerwen, aren't we? Their darting achievements are interchangeable in this tournament.
So, right, I'm going to read off the PDC and Winmore website here, and we'll go into the format as well. The Winmore World Masters will run the darts calendar in 2025. The Masters was won last year by Stephen Bunting. Will become the Winmore World Masters, adopting the name of the event, which was first held in 1975, and has been won by a host of darting legends, including Eric Bristow, Dennis Priestley, and Phil Taylor. So that says to me it's a continuation. But going on, 32 players will compete for the tournament, but there is a prelim round. So the top 24 on the PDC order of merit at the end of the Paddy Power World Championships will go instantly into round 1. The prelim round will be held on Wednesday, the 29th of January, and it could see up to 180 players competing for 8 spots.
It's amazing that.
The prelim round will be open to all non-qualified PDC Tour card holders, top 8 from each of the PDC's 2024 secondary tours and global affiliate tours. So that makes up eligible to play are 104 tour card holders that haven't qualified, and then the top 8 from the following: the Challenge Tour, the Development Tour, the Women's Series, the Nordic and Baltic Tour, the Asian Tour, the CDC, Darts Player Australia's, Darts Players New Zealand, and there is and 4 from the JDC, which is a great bit in there.
Really?
But there's a note here. It says, should players in the top 8 reject their invite, places will not be passed down. So it is bang. That is it.
Right. So if you're let's say the CDC, because let's say that's a tour, an affiliate tour that's got some challenges in travel. If you're ranked number 6 and you choose that you can't travel to the UK that week to do the preliminary round and turn the invite down, the number 9th ranking person isn't then going to.
No, correct. And these prelims will be played over round robin, and they will be, not all, but there will be streaming opportunities from it.
I think it's class.
So just a quick one. Where is it? So about the trophies. Right, so there was discussion around this, and a lot of people thought Winmore owned the trophies but couldn't, because they were so old and obviously times change, Winmore couldn't find the relevant paperwork to say that they own them. So hence why they were BDO auctioned off. Because back in the day, it was Winmore bought the trophies for use of that tournament.
Do we know where they are now? Do we know? We can't say.
No, I don't, to be fair. But look,
you sometimes know things that we can't.
I hope that the new trophy is a version of that magical Winmore Masters trophy.
But so are you convinced that the old one ain't coming back?
No,
one's got their hands on it.
No, I think they'll make a new version of it.
You think?
But yeah, it's interesting. Bob says there, it is the WDF Darts Masters on the same time. So look, there will be players on the Challenge Tour, Dev Tour, Women's Series that will have to make a decision.
It's not going to be a hard decision, though, is it?
Well, not with the prize money on offer. No, but look, we were all building this up. Would this be a good announcement? Would it be a bit? This one lived up to everything that we were hoping for.
The prelim round. Honestly, I got genuinely excited. I was driving today, as you know. I was traveling across the country when that announcement was dropping. So I was relying on the rest of you lot that could actually see. Well, I don't think you were traveling as well, weren't you? No, other members of the team that could see it to contact me and tell me what was going on. And honestly, I was giddy with excitement as they revealed further the format and the structure. Because again, I like to manifest chaos, and that prelim round is absolute chaos. There are the potential for absolute chaos. There are wild, wild things that could happen in that prelim round, and I am absolutely all for it. I think I just want to be able to. I want to be able to see as much of it as possible, because I know the potential games within that prelim round are games that we as fans have been desperate to see. We're going to see top players from the CDC playing against top players from the Asian Tour and top players from the Challenge Tour. And there are going to be, I know that when those draws come out and we see them, there's going to be an awful lot of games that we think, I just want to watch that. And if I have to watch all of it through Dart Connect, I'll be devastated, because I want to see as much of it as is possible. I want a UK Open setup, like 8 streaming boards. That's the dream.
All in on Gates versus Lagan in the prelim. Absolutely.
This is what I'm like. There are proper fantasy booking dream matches where we can take and pluck, a Spellman from one part of the world. We could see Alex Spellman against Paul Lim. Who's never wanted to watch that game? It's genuinely exciting what we could see in that prelim stage, and that's why I think it's desperately important that we.
Yeah, look, it's going to be at the Marshall Arena. So again, the rigging team's got a tight turnaround. So that'll be interesting. Again, they haven't released everything. There's a couple of bits that I'd like to know. That will the prelim be seeded in any way? I don't think it can be. I just think the prelim has to be an open thing. Look, in terms of manifesting chaos, could you imagine if they said that everyone was in the prelim, even the big boys?
Well, you know me, I'd say 100% yes, go for it. And I would take the top 10 deserve to be in everything, and tell you to consider all of the potential matches. If I said, right, Phil, everyone goes through the prelim, everyone, but it's all streamed and you can see it all. You'd think this is fucking bonkers. I've got to watch it. It's like, and it's not, as I say, it's that potential of what we can see. And then again, like we know, and hopefully the world does after this, like the depth of talent and some of the genuinely special abilities that are in some of those affiliate tours. And if we can get some players there that find a route through that prelim round, and we get some of these players, these international players that haven't been seen on UK TV either at all or very much, we can see some really big games if some of those guys come through the prelims. And we know that some of our top 24 can be got at. Like, look at this weekend. Like, we know that players in the top 24 can be got at. They can turn up and chuck a 74 average. And if you're throwing a 74 average against the top 8 players on the Challenge Tour in the CDC, like, you're going to fucking struggle. You're going to really struggle because they're better than that.
Of course, we can give a shout out to Jane watching along. Great to have you in. But the other one as well is that look, this gives the Masters purpose again, because for too long the Masters was just used as a pre-season tournament. Players would come back off their holidays, they experiment with some darts, not really take it seriously. But the other question now is, if you're one of the big boys, shall we say, is going on holiday straight to Bahrain and Den Bosch going to help you? Or is it going to be a hindrance?
I think that's it's probably a case-by-case question. That I think there are some players that it won't bother. I think there are some players that it'll be a benefit to, and some players that it'll be an absolute hindrance for. And again, what we might see is players managing their diaries. You know, we've seen players manage their diaries for World Series events, like and decide that one isn't for them. And I think we might just see a bit more of that for Bahrain. Whereas I think realistically everyone went to Bahrain. You know, everyone that was required or that had been invited to Bahrain went. Did I think this year, didn't they? Whereas
I don't think they're going to next year.
Well, this year, 100. This is it. But again, like, fine. Like, if you're big enough and you can afford to turn the money down, let someone else have the opportunity. Like, I'm fine with that. I have no problem whatsoever with it, because if somebody can turn down that opportunity, now, if it's especially if it's for a reason like I want to really focus on this special tournament and I want to be the Windmill World Master, then great. Like, don't go to Bahrain then, but someone else is going to collect a rather large check for going to Bahrain.
Yeah, it is set play. So we have another set play tournament on the calendar, but those sets are only best of 3.
Oh, I tell you what, Phil, Marcus has just made a really good point as well. Is there is some scope if we're going to see at that time of year, and these affiliate players are going to look at, that's when I'm going to have to do my trip to the UK so that I can play in those prelim events. Then there's definitely some scope, isn't there, for seeing those players pop up at other events in the UK, whether that be the Super Series, whether that be ADC events, or other different things that will be going on around the same time. But I think it is interesting that those guys are going to be coming over, and what else we might see them in, because they've got to justify the trip, haven't they? They've got to be able to justify that long journey, and the more darts they can get over in whilst they're here, you assume the better.
Yeah. I think God might be able to set that up for you. Rudy, how are we doing? Welcome along to Online Darts. Good to have you here for the first time. Don't be shy in the chat room. But yeah, no, look, in terms of an announcement, this was right up there. So I'm superb. I think that the PDC, and kudos to everyone there and at Winmore for getting this over the line. We have a real purpose and a real buzz to start the new season with. So I am down for that.
I feel like it's a good job they got new. It's a good job that their boards are currently on brand, or we could have had a clash of. We could have had two manufacturers on the screen at the same time, couldn't we? If the boards hadn't have come back.
No, Rob. So I knew the announcement was to do with the Masters. I said that in our chat, Dan, didn't we? I said
that was so. There are sometimes a little windows of snippets, and that we did have a lead on the subject matter.
So yeah, I knew it was to do with the Masters, but it was kept radio silence from everyone at PDC and Winmore what it actually was.
Very influential people had no idea what was going on.
Very influential people had no idea. So
and I think some of them were deeply frustrated that they were kept out of the loop as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So literally, some quite important people had no idea what was going on.
But I do think, like, whilst you might offend certain people who think that they have, they should be further into the loop than they were, what it was, even for us, like, it's no great secret that every now and again we get a nod on something, and somebody, someone has a word with one of us, and we sort of half know what to expect. It's part of what we have to do because we have to be able to react and publish things quickly. So, but there was a little bit of excitement that we sort of enjoyed, I think, all of us, in being able to find out on that reveal, at 12 o'clock went, and we weren't in the loop. We had that excitement of there being a reveal and us being part of it instead of it just being bouncing around a WhatsApp group a week before.
Yeah. The new tournament is just a rebrand of the Masters to the old Winmore Masters. Trevor, absolutely. As well, look, this week it's a big week. It's a big 2 days because the race for Minehead is on with 2 Pro Tours to go.
Let's have a look.
Now, the players have 2 events to get to Minehead, Wednesday and Thursday.
And, I've just reminded myself of how tight that is in that, and there's still big names not guaranteed. There's still big names not guaranteed. I mean, Nathan Aspinall is only in on countback. And if any one of a number of very capable players wins a game, he's right up against it.
Look, but there are some big names missing. There are opportunities in this Pro Tour. Michael's not there. Humphreys isn't there. Littler's not there. Price isn't there. There are a lot of big hitters missing out. Someone asked about Gary. He's on the list, but I don't think you'll see Gary Anderson there. After chatting with him on yesterday, I don't think you'll see him there.
But I often think, and this is completely rogue at the minute, because the players that are coming in to fill in, some of them are arguably in better form than various others. The players that you could be meeting, and certainly the players that are competing for a spot, but it's properly tight. And there are players that aren't in the grid, even that. So you can say, Nick Kenny's level with Nathan Aspinall, Barry Van Peer's £500 behind, Nathan Aspinall's £500 behind, so's Matt Campbell. So there's a few players that are very, very close to it. But there's a lot of players further outside that are very capable of just going on a bit of a run. So, for example, Ricardo Petresco is $4,000 outside of qualifying for Minehead. But I think, this weekend is evidence, if you wanted it, that Ricardo Petresco is very capable of beating top darts players and going on a bit of a run. So he could very well be an upset. You know, there's people that could come from all over. I think it's going to be complete and utter chaos.
Yeah. So yeah, Gary said if he didn't get home till today, he wasn't going to go. So look, I'll on the original list, not entered tour card holders was Ronnie Hybrex, Paul Korn, Adrian Lewis, Hert Nenches, Christian Perez, Hopai Puhau, Pascal Duprec, Leighton Bennett, Adam Smith-Neal, MVG, Luke Humphreys, Luke Littler, Gerwyn Price, Dimitri Vandenberg. But I expect there to be another one or two on that list after the weekend as well. Off the back of the Pro Tour news, Connor Scutt has turned down Lakeside. He will go to Alexandra Palace. Common sense has prevailed. And it's nothing I haven't said to him on WhatsApp earlier today either. We had a good little chat.
The only sensible decision. I was genuinely panicking. I'm a massive fan of Connor, and I was panicking that he was not going to make that decision. But I'm genuinely pleased that he has, because I think just because as a fan, I want to see him there.
Yeah, 100%.
Capable of beating top players. He's got an amazing game. And that game should be being played at the very highest level.
Yeah, Josh, he didn't travel until this morning. There wasn't an available flight for him to get on there. So, but just looking at it, that it's exciting times. That there's some big names now missing from the WDF event at Lakeside. That it gives opportunities to others. I think the prize money when it was released was a kick in the teeth for a lot of players. The prize fund was cut again. And look, if you haven't got the money, I've got no issue with that at all. But they cut it in the wrong places. That the winners for the men and the women shouldn't be as high as it is with the gaps in between. Those top prizes have to come down and then filter down. So for the men's, if you lose in round one, it's only 750 quid. Some of the players that are coming from Australia, New Zealand, America, that's not even going to cover their flight.
You have to increase that floor at the bottom, at the first round, in order to make it a legitimate, world championship. What you have to do is you have to make it as accessible as you can for the best players around the world who are eligible and qualify for that tournament to play in it. And where it erodes, and the PDC are as guilty of this, or they are guilty of this as well, is it erodes the quality of you saying, like, this is the World Championship. If you've got people in Australia, Asia, America, who aren't able to play in your World Championship that they've qualified for, because it wouldn't cover their travel there and back, like to play there. And I just think it erodes the quality of the event that you are trying to produce. So I think it's really important to try and not only has the prize money slipped, but it's been like a catastrophic slip. So just for the last 2 years, so 2022 and 2023, and coming up in 2024, the prize money for the male champion was £50,000. The prize money for the female champion was £25,000. So there has been some consistency in that winning prize money, which is brilliant. You've won a world championship, you should get a big pot of money. That's how it should work. However, in 2 years, the total prize fund for the male competition has gone from £200,000, 25% of which was that winning fee of £50,000, down to £130,000. It's come down by £70,000 in 2 years. And keeping that £50,000 where it is, whilst you want the winner to get a massive prize, it's disproportionate. And it's the same with the women's 2 years ago, 2022, when Bo Greaves won it, that was an £87,500 prize fund, which has come down to 60. The runner-up's getting only £8,000. The runner-up got 12.5 grand 2 years ago. It is a huge. If you start doing the maths and you do the percentages, you know, the male runner-up 2 years ago has gone from £25,000 down to £16,000. It's a huge drop.
34 grand difference between winner and runner-up is just ridiculous.
It doesn't bear any structure in terms of like a pyramid. You know, like it sort of doesn't. You know, it doesn't fit really well. And I understand. And you know, again, this is probably going to get me told to called names on Twitter or something. But like, let's be honest. What happened is, they've been massively criticised, and other organisations that have been at the helm of this tournament have been massively criticised in the past for dicking about with the prize money. The headline is always the winning prize money. That's what the headline is. Everyone's writing and raving saying, well, it used to be 100 grand, now it's 30 grand, it's a fucking shambles, it's extra. Like, that's the problem. What they've done is they've reduced massively in percentage terms in 2 years. You know, that male prize fund from 200 grand to 130 grand is a huge reduction. But they have tried to negate the headlines of it, and they negate people picking up on it and pointing the finger and saying this is wild, by making sure that that headline of 50 grand is still 50 grand, because that had made the headline previously. Was what the discussion point wasn't like, oh, those that have gone out in the second round don't get as much as they used to. The discussion was, that's incredible, the drop-off that we used to get from 100 grand to 28 or whatever it ended up being in the male competition. And I understand what they've tried to do, but it's just left a gaping hole. And it doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't allow the best. It's not the best structure that you could use 130 grand for in order to get people from around the world who are capable and have qualified for your tournament to make it sustainable and accessible for them to do so. I think 130 grand could be redistributed better than the model.
Yeah, I'm with you. Absolutely with you. Also, Nitin Kumar is heading back to Ali Pali. He won the Indian qualifier at the weekend. I would say so. Look, I'd say Vanski would go off Bookie's favourite.
Yeah, I think so. I would have thought so.
The way he's picked up WDF titles, he played well on the Pro Tours, played well at the Super Series as well. Will it be televised? Your guess is as good as mine, Bob. Again, no hint at the moment. It might be on some rogue Sky Channel 187 again, or whatever it was.
Where we were last year, was it not Azerbaijan, the Azerbaijan national broadcaster or something? Something a bit, wasn't
something
it?
rogue. Rob. So, Bhav Patel was unable to play in this year's qualifier. So I don't know the exact reason, but there was something wrong. Either I don't know the exact reason, but he wasn't eligible to play, and by the sounds of it, I don't think he should have played last year, but did. I think they've realised there was a mistake last year.
Yeah, I think it's a qualification issue, isn't it?
So yeah, he wasn't allowed to play. So yeah, that was that one. John Henderson winning at the Super Series. The Highlander getting over the line and qualifying for Champions Week.
Becoming a little habit of him winning darts matches at the moment, isn't it? Right.
He's done all right, isn't he?
He's becoming quite used to winning darts matches. I'll see him again in a fortnight or so. Less than a fortnight now, isn't it?
That's what he does, isn't it? He certainly lives in the UK. I'm not sure if it's London or not, but he certainly lives in the UK. I don't want to say, yeah, he lives there, but yeah, he's certainly UK.
He's British based, isn't he?
Yeah, 100%. So that was that.
I'm going to try get him in this bit because I do know it. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can I hear?
Hey!
Internet is still dreadful. It might count at any point, but this is one bit I do know about. So, Bav has played in the last couple of years and obviously was the de facto winner of the qualifier last year after Prakash was withdrawn. India, as a nation, don't offer dual citizenship, but they do offer a card that's basically Indian resident abroad, which means that they can go into India and have all the rights of an Indian, but they're not classed as an Indian citizen. Last year, Bav entered the qualifier, etc., despite the PDC knowing that he was raised in London and whatever else. He's got Indian heritage, which is how they've allowed him to play before, and made Bav sign an agreement saying that he would only participate as an Indian for the next 5 years. The PDC have then quoted their eligibility criteria at Bav this year, stating that the card that Bav has isn't valid, and to play in that you have to be one of three things, and saying this has always been their qualification criteria. So down the line, someone somewhere has fucked up by either allowing him to play previously or not checking these things. The three criteria are the player was born in that nation, the player holds a valid passport for that nation, or the player has continuous residency defined as their primary or permanent home in the nation for 5 consecutive years immediately preceding the date of the relevant event. Now, Nitin Kumar doesn't reside in India. He has resided in Dubai for the last number of years, but I think he holds an Indian passport, which is why he's been allowed to play and Bav has not. After making Bav sign a deal or agreement, contract, whatever, last year to say he would represent India for the next 5 years, the PDC have now turned around and said to him he's got to sign the same thing to say that he's English. So someone somewhere messed up. What it feels like is that the Indian authority that run the qualifier on behalf of the PDC or whatever else have cracked down on it to stop people that don't reside in India taking that spot and someone from India having a shot, and then it's gone and been won by somebody that lives in Dubai.
By all accounts, listening to people at the weekend, he shouldn't have played last year. There was a fuck up last year.
Well, I always
basically then, if that's fine, shouldn't have played last year, but he's played multiple years. I believe Prakash might be in a similar situation. And somebody somewhere hasn't checked before. And after making him sign that agreement for 5 years, what I think they should have done is honour it for 5 years and then turn around and say, actually, these are the eligibility criteria. We've messed up before, but we made you sign this deal. We'll go back to it.
I always assumed.
You can't sign him a deal last year and then go, actually, no, we've messed up. Or not admit their fault.
Yeah.
Oh, but he lasted long enough to at least impart some knowledge on the subject, didn't he?
Yes. And on that note,
as it's show 180, are you going to bout us out of 180, Gob?
No.
I always made the assumption.
Genuinely a very busy day for 180s earlier today.
I always made the assumption, wrongly, which is my lack of knowledge, that it was essentially a little bit like, you know how shit English footballers end up playing for Ireland and Scotland? And I always thought that, yeah, if you could find like an Irish nana, then you could play for Ireland. And I always assumed that it was exactly the same. So, like, if one of your grandparents was born in Glasgow, then you could play for Scotland in the World Cup. I thought it'd be very similar to football, but surely there's not a chance of me shouting 180 because I've got 3 kids asleep upstairs. And if I start shouting in here, Mrs. Simpson will, you won't see her. You'll just see something fucking launch across this room right into my head. If I start shouting and waking the kids up.
So there you go. So yeah, that was that one. Yeah, look, the World Championship it's getting there, isn't it? And look, all eyes are going to be on that PDPA qualifier Monday after Minehead.
I'm not going to Minehead this year. That's very sad.
My 180 call is not very good. I'm just going to 180. Just copied someone else's.
I was gonna say that was more of an impression, wasn't it? Than
yeah.
There's not that many ways to shout it, if I'm being completely honest.
That's the problem. There's only so many vowels in that word that you can extend. Therefore, there is only so many different ways of extending a vowel and saying the same bloody thing.
Yeah.
To be fair, though, I actually want a referee to drop the actual 180 as it says, because no one calls them 180s anymore. Whenever a player says how many 180s, they all call them 180s. So I want a referee to do 180.
No, it doesn't flow right. Cool. And neither does say maxi, so grow up. Anybody
I want nothing. I want something. Yeah, I want something that's a bit more like
a bit more down with the kids.
Yeah. Talking of down with the kids, can we go back to a couple of things that I may have missed earlier? One of which is now the sheer size of the Masters.
Yeah.
That's too big for Milton Keynes. In my opinion. It's way too big. It's way too big for Milton Keynes, especially knowing how big that qualifier is now going to be, because they promised group stages on the Wednesday, and the turnaround time to then set up a stage is far too big. What I am suggesting is that moves to not the same one, but another holiday destination site owned by the same people that they have a really good relationship with.
Bognor, because it's closer to my house.
No!
And that the Players' Championship...
Shut up, you!
The Players' Championship finals, which could be set up as a dual board in the same room, so you have people playing at the very back of the room for half the day, but then when you need the main stage, just turn it around, moves to Milton Keynes.
Yeah, look. Obviously, the Masters, when the tickets went on sale, this wasn't done or dusted. But going forward, you might be right. But
I think it will move.
I also think it needs changing in the time of the year.
Paula, yes, Paula.
Well, I wonder where Paula's from. Must be the northeast.
Yes, more things within driving distance. If I have to get a plane to them, but they're in the UK, they're too far away. Like that's just like if it's in Britain, but I have to fly to it, it's not close enough, is it?
Joke. We've got to do that to you next week.
Yeah, no, it's a joke.
What's going on here?
To be fair, Paula, what's your opinion on the Winmore World Masters? Is it a continuation? Would Adam Smith-Neal and Michael Van Gerwen be 2 times Winmore World Masters champions if they were to win this trophy again?
Only if Winmore were the sponsors.
Elaine as well. Yes, these are I am absolutely having it at the minute. The chat room is producing proper, viable darts venues. This is the future of darts. Primrose Valley.
Rainton Meadows can't be that viable if the seniors couldn't sell it and have moved to Nissan.
If I speak,
all right, Jose. I think that previous Masters winners should now be classed as PDC. Fair enough.
Please, ladies and gentlemen.
It's going to get stupid, but anyone that's won the PDC Masters has won the Masters. They're not the World Master, right? The World is going to be the crucial part there. Anyone that's won the PDC Masters is a PDC Masters champion. They are not a World Master. They're not the Winmar World Master. That's a big difference. They are just a former Masters champion. A former World Master which is the accolade that you're not World Master Champion. If you've won that event, you're a World Master, right? Martin Adams is a 3-time World Master, or might even be 4 or 5 or whatever it is. That's going to be the defining thing. If Windmill sponsored that event, then they're the lineage. So Plaisir might have 1, not 2. Smith Neal gets 1. John O'Shea, was that 180 or was that a Windmill?
That was 180.
So John, sorry, it doesn't count, pal. Love you, but no.
To be fair, Warren, the Barbican's not big enough for a PDC event. Don't get me wrong, the York Barbican is a great venue, but it's not big enough to host a PDC event.
No, you're right.
Bradmore
It's a gold
Farm,
venue.
anything else is in there?
Back to the Bick at Bournemouth.
I'm going there next year. To see the Harlem Globetrotters.
Yes, Paula. Adam Smith Neal beat Glenn Durrant in the final.
All right. It was going so well in the chat room. Now we've gone in 2-footed on Glenn.
You wait till I see him Wednesday. He's been missing you. Now you've got in 2-footed on him.
He did all right for himself, didn't he? As a 3-times Lakeside champ.
Oh, that's an interesting one, yeah. Cliff English don't count.
Your loss, pal.
Phonogram, the first 2 years, sponsored prize money, £800.
I think.
Wow.
Or
there wasn't a
round one of
anybody else in the World Master at that time, was there? There wasn't a contentious second World Masters. I think that as the Windmill adopted that and bought it and became it, I think that is in the lineage, and we can give those two.
Yeah, it will be interesting if, like, you know, in terms of the records, you know, and how many times people have won them, because everybody likes a list of records, don't you know? Eric Bristow, 5 times winner of the Winmore World Masters. Now, someone's going to have to go some before there is a conversation as to whether or not they've won more than he has. But Stephen Bunting, and Raymond van Barneveld is as well, but let's work on the assumption that Stephen Bunting's more likely to win another one than Barney is. But Stephen Bunting's won it twice. So not only could he, if you subscribe to that narrative, become a 3-time winner, but that puts him, if he does win it, you know, alongside Martin Adams and Bob Anderson, only behind the very best world master of all time, Eric Bristow.
This is where the record gets contentious, because if all of a sudden this is an extension, but the PDC decides to include their own masters for the last 10 to 15 years, he already has 3.
The first Winmore World Master was John Lowe in 1976.
So the 74 and 75 don't count them. We can rule that out.
No, and then the only other one that doesn't count is, sorry, John, is 2019 was 180 L style.
I still think that, well, this year's doesn't count, does it? 2024.
And 2024, yeah.
But I'm still
23.
I'm not convinced fully.
To be fair, I'm going out on a limb. It might say Winmore, but Plaisir's doesn't count either because it was
That's
lead.
that's my point. I don't think that 2022 is relevant. I think the structure of that and the way it contractually worked will have been different. And I think that Adam Smith Neal is the defending champion.
No, Big Johnny.
Able, I understand, to defend it. He'll be back, won't he?
Yeah, Evans won it in 75, mate. Ingles won it in 74. Evans 75. Lowe 76. Bristow 77. Don't get me wrong, the announcement is great, but it has muddied the waters and it's got everyone talking, which is great.
And the thing is, if we know anything about the PDC, They love absolutely nothing more than not specifying. Otherwise, we'd all be fully aware what a fucking major is by now.
A televised title. Yeah, Merv King's now a major winner in the PDC then.
So Steve Beaton.
John Walton.
Man. Colin Monk.
Eric Claris.
Yeah, Colin Monk, former world master. There's some talent among the lineage of this, and it is like this is genuinely like if you are able to, and I completely understand that there's a lot of different politics and views, and in terms of people being very bitter about what happened to the BDO, very strong views on the WDF, various, like everyone fits in different categories, and there are some people that are very anti-PDC. If you can sort of detach yourself from all of that and just say, oh, can we just concentrate on enjoying darts, then it's quite cool to have what was a very important tournament celebrated and potentially even elevated so that that format is back, and probably format back and better than ever, accessible to many, many people as we know, as darts grows, and we're going to get all these different people from lots and lots of different affiliate tours involved as well. I think it can only be a very, very positive thing. And let's be honest, it's a bit of fun to work out what the lineage is on that title and trophy and how many times different people have won it, and if Adam Smith-Neal is the defending champion.
Yeah. Evening, Harry. Oh, also, Big Johnny. The big news, Paula Jacklin will not be at Lakeside, which means there's no 2-0 on my betting slip.
A, that's a disappointment. B, someone get the Clarkson fucking gear. Oh, no. Anyway.
No turn down for what going on?
Do we need a minute's silence, or are we happy just carrying on?
No, we'll just carry on. We'll just plough on.
Good.
Just plough on and pretend it never happened.
What's that? What, all those years at BDO?
To be fair, I promised I'd talk about this, and I will do. So a lot of people have asked where I have been on James Wade interviews over the last 2 tournaments.
Hey!
Look, so James is refusing to let me interview him at PDC events. He is claiming over the last 6 to 7 years, and he is going back that far, is what he's saying, that I have interviewed him differently to everyone else. And I've always been negative against him, and so on and so on. So he's refuses to be interviewed by me at the moment. But he hasn't given the PDC any evidence of this. They've asked for it, and he hasn't given any. And as I've said to the PDC media guys, that they've probably been in 95% of interviews that I've done with James Wade, and have never said I'd cross the line or anything like that. So it's one of them at the moment. So instead now, I just give the PDC boys my questions. They ask them, and I just then edit it.
Out of interest, and I'm just this is a question for you, like genuinely, because I think people do find it interesting sometimes, the insight that you get and what you do. But like the short question is, like, is this the first time it's happened, and is this the first player that's ever done that? You know, have you had a player previously in this situation that said, "I'm not being interviewed by Phil"?
100%. The only player that's ever done it the only player in 8 years that I've been doing it.
Another one came close.
Well, it's coming close and doing it, isn't it? I've come close to all sorts of things, but
he referred to as Jabba the Hutt via a Skype call.
I've come close to all sorts of things. It only counts if you actually do it.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, it's like, look, I don't think I've done anything wrong. The PDC have never pulled me up in 8 years for doing anything wrong. So yeah, it is what it is.
I think if somebody, the thing is, and I apologize, I'm probably speaking for Gob there. Like you're probably streaming with two bona fide James Wade fans. Like I know Jack is a James Wade fan. I've always been a fan of James as a dart player. Like I've always enjoyed watching him play, and there are some things that I have watched of him, especially things like the interview that he did recently, a while ago now, but the interview that he did with Simon Jordan that I found both insightful and genuinely personally useful as well. Like I thought it was really good. So I just find it a bit sad. Like if I'm like, I think, oh, for fuck's sake, because like I know you, I've known you for a long time, and I know that you come from a place of that's a positive one, that isn't a negative, like that isn't a negative one, and I know that because you know,
I just fly band over, but we'll find out tomorrow.
To be fair, like, I can pinpoint it to the exact interview where he changed with me, and I can, and I can pinpoint, and I can remember the exact question as well. And again, taken out of context, it was, remember when he won the Manchester Premier League night? It was his first Premier League night win since being back, and it was his first win in a long time in anything because he wasn't playing particularly well. The question was, James must be delighted with that win. For someone that's won so much in his career, decorated career, it's been a long time without winning. Do you think that you back in the winner's circle will give everyone else someone to think about and they start fearing your game again because of what you've done? And that was being negative.
Yeah, I think that's a perception issue.
Personally.
Yeah. I think it's a perception thing, if that's the issue, and I would like to think.
An argument with Jermaine Watermainer once while interviewing him. That was fun.
Well, I would like to think that he's been asked tougher questions by generally, like since then and regularly, like they're meant to be challenging because they're about something that's serious. Like if you take your profession seriously, then scrutiny upon it is serious, isn't it? Like that's what it is. So whenever there is scrutiny upon it, and it's important to understand that scrutiny exists, and scrutiny isn't really positive or negative. It's scrutiny. It's trying to establish the reasons and the understanding and everything else. Yeah, so I just made me.
Word so often you start questioning if that word is real.
But yeah, look, it's funny. It is what it is. But it's all good. We've got a great interview with Mace dropping tomorrow, not to be missed. Genuinely, Mace at his brilliant best. He goes to town. That's all I'm saying. Get your popcorn ready. So that is dropping tomorrow. Me and Gob have got something planned tomorrow as well, but we'll keep you all posted with that through the day. This will be available as an audio.
My internet connection.
I was going to say I wouldn't bank on it. I'm off work if his internet bombs.
To be fair, if his internet bombs what we're doing, there's an issue because it shouldn't even reach. But I say we have been Online Darts. Thank you very much for your support as always. If you haven't yet, make sure you drop us a like and subscribe. Plenty going on, plenty of interviews coming your way over the next week or so as we get ready. Pro Tour streams return Wednesday, Thursday. Dan will be here for the Grand Slam qualifier.
Certainly will.
We have got you covered all week here at Online Darts. Phil Bars, Dan Simpson, Jack Garwood, part-timer. That is us signing out, and we'll see you all very, very soon.